I was nervous. That was like the most nervous I've been in ages.
Which means you've gone through a lot of highs together, but also, you know, some lows as well.
But I knew that I wanted to like have a main collaborator, but I just hadn't found the right person yet. And they knew like all the words to the chorus. I was like, is there someone on our team who's like leaking these songs out?
Hello and welcome to the Eras podcast, where we get to know the music and moments that have made your favourite artists who they are today. I'm your host, Abbie McCarthy, and in this episode, I'm joined by the lovely Bradley Simpson, the lead singer of the hugely successful band The Vamps, about to enter into a very exciting chapter as a solo artist. We get into it all next. Welcome to the Eras podcast, Bradley Simpson. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. It's so nice to see you. It's been ages.
Too long. I'm trying to think the last time I saw you.
How are you?
I've been good, thank you. Yeah, chilling. Working on some new music, living life, just chilling, really.
You've just been touring Europe.
Yes, yeah.
How have those shows been?
Good. It was intense and brief, is how I would describe it. That wasn't the name of the tour, but like
could have been.
It could have been, yeah, maybe it should have been. But it was like 3 days back to back. So we did Berlin, Paris, Amsterdam. And they were just like intimate shows. And we did a run of shows at the 100 Club as well in London. And it was just to basically like showcase the new music to the fans before we go into a proper, like we've got a European tour planned at the end of the year. But it was just a nice way to kind of get the music out there, and some of my favourite cities. We did some of the album in Paris, so it was nice to go back there. Yeah.
You went over to America again, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because that must have been a while since you've been over there.
That was the first
like
gig
touring
I played.
Anyway,
Yeah. First gig I'd played in America in 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And the fans reminded me of it. It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. It was really, really fun.
It must be such a special feeling seeing the music connecting already.
It's cool, yeah. It blows my mind though, because like on the second night at the 100 Club, so literally no one had heard any of the songs, and then I played them on the first night. We got to the second night, and there's a song on the album and that I'm playing in the set called Carpet Burn, and they knew like all the words to the chorus. I was like, is there someone on our team who's like leaking these songs out?
Yeah, do I need to have a word with my managers?
Yeah, we've got a leak. They just kind of went away and sent the song amongst each other and learned the lyrics, and yeah, they're the best. They're the best, and it's really surreal, especially knowing that they're songs that you live with for like best part of a year, 2 years, and then you hear people. It's like very immediate. Like we only finished the album. Well, it's not fully finished, but I finished that song probably like 3 months ago. So from finish to then hearing people sing it back is quite a quick process.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing about those smaller shows, I guess, isn't it? You can see it connecting so instantly. But with the Vamps, the shows were obviously just getting bigger and bigger, huge productions. So what was it like going back to those kind of like smaller, more intimate moments? Were you a bit
sweaty ones?
Were you a bit terrified?
I was nervous. That was like the most nervous I've been in ages. And I was with the boys today, and we were getting asked like, do you still get nervous for shows? I think when you're in the context of the band, because you've got like your mates around you. Not that the people that I play, like I love the people that I'm playing with on the solo shows, but I've played gigs with the boys for 10 years, do you know what I mean? So there's like a comfort there, and you kind of almost forget that you're going on to do a show and then you're out. But I think I'd prepped a lot for the solo shows. I'd never played a solo show. I think I played like a handful before I was even in the band. So it was nerve-wracking. And even more so that it was an intimate venue, like you say, because you see the whites of people's eyes, and it's like...
You can see if they like it or don't like it.
You can, you can. People just like that. I'm like, oh, God.
They went down so well. I mean, there's been so many good shows at the 100 Club over the years. I mean, that venue is just so iconic, isn't it? Whether it's like the punk rock stuff. I saw Paolo Nutini's like underplays there
I saw
a couple
that.
of years
Did you
ago.
go?
Yeah, and they were just
unreal.
like amazing.
Yeah. I went to those. Oh, that was like dream seeing him like in a small venue. Yeah, it was cool. And I think when the idea came around doing like a bit of a week's residency there, I was so game, because I think it's a really cool way to showcase the music, but also like there's a lot of venues that we played in the band that I'm so grateful that we've had the opportunity to play, but then there's also a lot that I was like, I would have loved to play that. And like 100 Club was on that list. So you walk in, you feel the weight of the room. Like I think the week before Green Day were in town for like an award show or a festival or something, and they popped up and did like a show there the week before, and then you walk throughout the venue and they've got the photos of like there's Metallica in there, and it's like that puts the nerves in you as well, because you're in the presence of giants. And you want to do a decent enough job.
That is such a good one though, like you say, to kind of tick off the bucket list, isn't it? 100 Club, done.
And also like the people in there, it's like still family run. So the lady who's looking after us, her and her brother run the venue now, but it was her great granddad who had the venue originally, or great granddad, and she was telling us so many stories because we were in there for the week, and she was like, it used to actually be used as a bomb shelter, and they would come down and they put speakers in, so whilst all the bombs were going off, they were like, listen, we're not just gonna like hide, we're gonna put music on and blare it, and everyone would dance in there, and it's just been passed down from generation to generation. And she was telling us like that was my great granddad who started the venue. So
how cool is that?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Love that.
I've only told everyone I've met since that story, but
good PR. You should get commission.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know.
Good stuff. Let's take it right back then to a young Brad growing up in Birmingham. Was that like a fun place to grow up? Was it a good city?
Yeah, I loved it. It was like a real, I don't know, it's home. So it's like all of my best friends were there and still are. My family was there. And I was like really fortunate that like with anything that I wanted to do, my parents were really supportive. And I think Birmingham had a lot of really interesting opportunities, and it just like had a lot of subcultures that I really enjoyed. Like I got into bands pretty early on, and there was it used to be the Carlin Academy, but it closed down a few years ago and moved. But I used to just go and see so many bands there. There was always bands coming through. There was always like good nights. I used to skateboard a lot when I was growing up, and there was a really good community around that. And I actually lived like 25 minutes out of Birmingham, so me and my friends used to get the train in.
It was like a big deal to be like, we're out in
Birmingham tonight. It was like we're going into town, and then going into like skating town was like a big deal because we were in a small town outside of Birmingham. And I think that's nice, and it felt like, obviously I always remember I saw like Jack Antonoff talk about how he's New Jersey and you're always in the shadow of New York, and it was like it instills some kind of like aspiration. And I think on a smaller scale, like it was, you wanted to go in and there was always stuff going on, gigs, or like all of the rehearsal rooms that I used to be in bands in when I was like 13, all the rehearsal rooms were in Birmingham, so you'd go in and get a glimpse into like other bands, and it was nice. And getting on the train was like that ritual of like getting yourself prepared to go in. So I genuinely loved growing up in Birmingham.
Yeah, I do think it is a bit overlooked as a city sometimes, because everyone talks about London, but it's got such a good music scene, like you say, loads of great music venues. So what would have been like the early gigs that you went to, your first kind of musical memories?
Ooh, in Birmingham. One of the first ones I remember going to, just me and my mates, was Foals.
Oh, amazing.
I went and saw Foals at O2 Academy, and we went in, and it was like we'd been like, all of our parents were like, right, you're allowed out, but be back by this time, blah, blah, blah. And it was mint. We went and saw Foals. There was a mosh pit. It was like my first experience of a mosh pit, which I'm not designed to be in a mosh pit. Like physically, it's just like it didn't work. I was like a football in the middle. But then off the back of that, we saw Fight Star.
Oh wow, yeah.
At like O2 Academy 3, I want to say. I think I saw Paolo when I was younger in. I can't remember what venue that was. But yeah, like loads. There was always gigs going on in Birmingham.
And then when was the first time that you actually started performing in front of people? Would it have been like school assembly, like a talent show or something? What would have been your first memory of being like, right, I'm going to sing in front of people?
I never like grew up a singer. I love being in a band and like playing music and stuff, but I was never like a singer. And I just kind of got into it. I was in a band when I was 11, and guitars was like my first instrument before I sang. So I started playing guitar when I was like 10. And then
what was the first song you learned?
Oh, Smoke on the Water.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Cole, my guitar teacher. You are a legend.
Boss.
He's like an enigma around Sutton. He taught me guitar for 3 years, and then like I've never heard of him teaching it. Yeah, he just disappeared like a genie. I learnt guitar when I was like 10, 11, and then I got into a band with lads that I went to school with, and I wasn't the singer. Like I didn't sing at all. I was the guitarist, and then our singer God, looking back, it's so like ridiculous. We were like, listen here, mate. Like, okay, you either need to get. I don't know why I'm from East London. But we were like, you need to either get guitar lessons or singing lessons because we're really trying to step it up as 12-year-olds in the music scene.
I think you're taking it serious.
Taking it really seriously.
Like, come on, boys.
Because his dad was like, you can get guitar lessons or singing lessons. We were like, you're the singer in the band, like get singing lessons surely. And he got guitar lessons, and we were like, no, he's not in it in the same way that we are. And then there was musical differences, and he left.
Musical differences, age 12. This is killing me. I love it.
Yeah, it was all going on in like the music room in break. And then I started singing in the band when I was like 12, 13. And probably the first gigs that I ever did like in front of people will have been just playing guitar in that band.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started singing in it when I was like 13 in school assemblies. And the drummer's dad owned a venue in, like, it was like a small community centre in the town that we're from. And we used to go and play gigs there. But yeah, that was the first round of gigs.
So you're like friends and family and teachers and stuff encouraging at that point?
Yeah, like friends and family massively, and like the teachers were good, to be fair. Like they used to put on a lot of like opportunities and like stuff outside of school that was like, they had a really good music department, and even like early producing. That's the first place that I started to learn software and how to produce music when I was like 14, 15. Yeah, it was just like they presented the opportunities. It was good. I'm trying to think if there was any. I always remember there was a group of lads. The first time I did my own acoustics, I was in the band, and then did some acoustic stuff, and that's how I met James, because I started doing covers acoustically by myself. But then the first time I did a solo show at school was like probably as nerve-wracking as the 100 Club shows.
Stop.
Yeah, I was so nervous. There was a group of lads who like I knew and I was mates with, but they'd never really heard me sing or do anything. I was like, oh, they're going to rinse me.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, like I think I'd wrote a song, it's called like Boom Boom Kapow. Awful.
And that is on the album, isn't it?
No. Yeah. But like after that, all the boys were like Boom Boom Kapow. I was like, my guys, I love
Boom
this.
Boom Kapow.
Yeah. So
he's a legend.
Yeah, it's good. Like the school was supportive for it, I'd say.
It's amazing how that kind of musical past has set you up for not only the band but this solo career that you're now thriving in. We love to see it.
Thank you.
How long has this been in the works? You know, the transition from being in the band to going out on your own.
Not like hugely long. Like I think probably 2 years maybe. I was never. I love the boys. I love the band. I was never like I want to go solo. Because I grew up wanting to be in bands all the time. Like that was the thing that was the dream, is to be like in a group of people that you are best mates with and you get to play music. That's just sick. But it was only a couple of years ago we just released the 5th album. We toured it, and then we hadn't really had a conversation around what we wanted to do next. And I think we did so many albums. So like the first 4 albums we did in the space of like 6 years. We did them so quick. And then we took a bit longer over the 5th album. I think we enjoyed that process of like take a step back, have some stuff to actually write about, and then make it a really considered album rather than feeling rushed. So we kind of unconsciously or subconsciously, were like, we're probably going to take a bit of time before the next album. And then I'd started writing stuff, but it felt too personal to give away because I was pitching songs out to other artists at the time. But I didn't want to pitch any of the songs out and they didn't feel right in the context of the band. So I just started doing writing trips, not really thinking, it's going to be a solo album. It was just like, I'm in a good frame of mind for writing. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, really. That was about 2 years ago.
That's so interesting. So was it almost like when you sort of unlocked the personal writing style, it sort of opened the floodgates a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. And especially because I'm always writing, or I have always been writing with the boys. So you're always like trying to find the middle ground and use everyone's influence, and that's what's been great in the band, is that there is all of these mix of influences and perspectives. But I'd never necessarily sat and thought about like, if I was to do something, how would I want it to sound? What would I want to say? It was a very like therapeutic process, and I think I ended up writing about stuff in a way that hadn't before, just purely because it was like a lot of it I wrote by myself. So it was like you can deep dive a little bit more and reflect on the past 10 years. So that's what the album's about, really.
And it was a big statement when I remember hearing Cry at the Moon and being like, okay, not what I expected, but I love this. It's very rooted in the kind of like traditional but gritty indie rock sound. I wanted to know how it sort of came about. Was that just the genre that suited the mood of the songs, or like how did it all come together sonically?
I loved that kind of like Queens of the Stone Age, Nirvana, the Black Keys, like all of those bands I loved growing up on. And like they're the bands that I remember like when I started to write stuff for this, I was just like, I didn't know what I wanted to listen to. Sometimes it's not great to listen to loads of other stuff around it because you end up just doing a worse version of something that you've been listening to. But I went back and I listened to albums that like I don't think about when I listen to them. So like since I got into music, and I think a lot of musicians will say this, I think you're a lot more analytical when you listen to music, and you're not necessarily listening to it as a listener, purely enjoying it. You're like, oh, that sounds cool, or that's a good lyric, rather than just being like. And one of the first albums that I really like loved was Songs for the Deaf by Queens of the Stone Age. So
what an album!
Great album. And before I went on an LA writing trip, I was just rinsing that album. I was just like, I've never written in this style before. It'd be so fun. And I went in with Andrew Wells and Anthony Rosamando, and we were just talking about it. And they were like the same as me. They grew up on the same music as me. And Anthony actually was in a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to. Like he was in the Klaxons and like Dirty Pretty Things. He was the guitarist in them. So we ended up just basically going back and forth on music that we loved. And then I think it just like naturally meant that we ended up writing like that, and that was the first song that I'd done in that style. And then it snowballed into like, this is exactly how I want to sound, or at least I felt like I knew where I was going after that.
And that's quite fun, isn't it, putting out something people aren't expecting? Almost like a blank canvas again, reset. Let's go, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it was cool. I was fucking nervous. I was how's this going to go? But it was... it was cool, and I think like a lot of the fans knew that I listened to that kind of music, so it didn't come out of left field too much for them. But it's a really fun process to make. And then I felt like, because live has always been such a fun thing and an important thing for the band and for me, I wanted a song that was gonna like make people go, I'd love to hear this live, and I wonder how this translates live. So
yeah, you succeeded 100%. And you've worked on the whole of the album with Boots, who is like a seriously incredible and like respected producer. Worked on Beyonce's Lemonade album, has worked with visionaries like Run the Jewels, FK Twigs, obviously Grammy nominated. Like, this is such a great link up. Like, how did it come about?
I don't actually know. I know, like it's still a blur. Yeah. We both reached for the same cup at the same time and then just touched hands. Alistair actually was like ran into his manager. So this is my A&R. And I'd been working with it, like I'd been self-producing a lot of stuff, but I knew that I wanted to like have a main collaborator, but I just hadn't found the right person yet. And Boots had just done an album with Jet.
Amazing.
Which is like, I love Jet.
Them back in the day.
That first album was amazing. And he'd just done a new album, and somehow I ended up with the link to it. Like, it's not even out now. So sorry, Jet, I've listened to your full new album. But it was amazing, and I was like, the production's amazing on it. It was just really... it was interesting to hear like a band that I'd heard when I was growing up, like in this new way, and I was like, whoever's been behind this. And then I found out Boots had exec produced it, and I was like, we jumped on FaceTime, and I remember me and the boys were away somewhere, and then I jumped on FaceTime for like an hour with him, and we just chatted, and we just got on really well.
Great.
And then we arranged a 3-week trip to New York off the back of that. So
that's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, we could meet.
Baby.
Yeah. But I was like, listen, I'm committing. It's going to be good. And we met up on the first day in New York, got on like a house on fire. And then literally the first song, I went back and I wrote Carpet Burn at the hotel and brought it in the next day. And it just was like the beginning of a really good relationship and friendship as well. Like he's a really lovely dude. So he lives in Nashville now, but when we did the New York shows a couple of weeks ago, he flew down for it, and yeah,
cool.
It was nice.
What do you think makes him such a great producer? Like when you're in the studio with him, is he sort of like, what does he do to push you to kind of be your best?
He works in a way different to anyone that I'd work with, and I've heard of people who work in a similar style, which is like everyone that I've worked with and how I work is very much like at the desk, in the laptop, and like quite quick to try and capture and like bottle whatever's happening in the room. Whereas Boots is very like, he sits back, he's not at the desk, he sits at the back of the room, and he kind of like just listens, and then he'll just like pick stuff apart, which I was really, at first I was like, are you not vibing with this? Like, what's going on?
My ego's hurt.
Yeah, I was like, please give me something. And then he was like, he'd pull out parts, and it'd just be like really considered decisions that he'd make. And I think there's something to be said for, you can get bogged down in like trying to get stuff in really fast, or like produce a song really fast, and if you have an idea, you're like, I'll make it sound like this. But to like step back and like strip away the pieces to get to the core of what it is really important. And our mantra throughout the whole album was like, do as much as you can with as little as possible. So it was like, whatever element makes it in the song, be it the drum parts, the guitar parts, but all of it has to be like, it has to earn its place. So it's not just like, we'll throw 3 basses on this and it'll sound really fat, but it's like, yeah, but why don't we do 1 bass and just make that? So it was like, hopefully we haven't got a huge set of tracks in the session, but what is there fills up the space. So that was nice, because it makes you approach it differently.
So you got the legendary producer on board, time to secure the studio, and you went where the Strokes recorded their first album, like an absolutely iconic piece of work. So what was it like going into, you know, a building like that, somewhere with just rock and roll history seeping out the walls pretty much? Literally.
It was cool. It was like, and it also felt like the Strokes did their first album there. It was like super gritty, everyone smoking cigarettes in the hall and in the studio. I was like, this does feel like the Strokes' first album. But I think it all just like kind of bled into the album, that feel. And it was Boots' suggestion, because he was like, he'd done the Jet album out there, or like parts of it, and he was like, it's just a great studio. It's right in the centre of Lower East Side, which is a really buzzy part of New York. So like in between, if you were hitting a writing block or anything, like you're out and then you're immediately in the thick of it. So yeah, it felt like very honoured to kind of go in and write in there. And the first studio that we were in, because they've got 3 or 4 in there, it was called The Dungeon, and it literally is like a dungeon. Like, you go down and
no daylight?
Like, yeah, you come out and you're like, it burns, because you're just not used to it. But you're in it. So I loved it. It was great.
What are the big themes of the album, would you say?
It's so tied in with the album title, which I haven't said anywhere yet. It's a lot of like ups and downs. I think it touches on like the past 10 years of my life, be it going through friendships and relationships and the band. And I think it's like kind of tied in with love and the ups and downs of that, and especially the first few singles, like Cry at the Moon's like kind of moving past the heartbreak, similar to Picasso. But then there's also like you falling in love songs. I really wanted it to kind of like touch on a lot of different subjects. So, but it's all written from like personal experience. That's why it felt so cathartic. So I'd say it kind of wraps up the past 10 years.
So written about lots of different people.
Yeah, or like an amalgamation of different experiences into one.
Be digging out the old teenage diaries and like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, what was going on there?
Do you find it easy writing from personal experience?
I never ever used to do it in the band, and it can be very like uncomfortable. But I can't remember who I saw say it, or maybe it was in the studio. Someone was just like, "That's exactly how you want to feel." As a writer, or it's anyone doing anything, being in a place of uncomfort is like great, because you know you're doing something different and you know you're going to grow off the back of it. And also, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's probably going to like resonate in a certain way. People will be able to latch onto it slightly more. So I hadn't done it as much as I've done it on this album. I'd say.
I do think that kind of uncomfortable bit where you really challenge yourself is where the best art comes from, for sure. The songs have definitely got like a very classic kind of indie feel to them. I'd love to know some more about your reference points. Obviously, we've spoken about some of your favourite bands, but yeah, what were your kind of aspirations with it?
Again, it was like spanning between like at the further ends, like the Queens of Stone Age and that kind of like grittier guitar stuff. And then I feel like growing up, there was such a good like British indie band scene.
Yeah.
In like the 2000s, like Block Party, Pigeon Detectives. Like,
golden age of indie,
it was
I think.
great.
Honestly, it was so great.
Yeah. Early Two Door Cinema Club and like all of those bands with like the really jangly guitar parts. Was like, I loved that. So it was kind of diving back into stuff that I'd grown up on. And then aspirationally, I just kind of I definitely wanted to make something that's set apart from anything that I'd done. And I was just proud of, and I like got to the end of the process and I was like, I'm happy with that. And I think past that, it's like, put it into the zeitgeist.
It's up to the fans, isn't it? It's up to how people connect with it. Daisies is a song that people have loved like pretty much from the off, right? Like from those early shows. What's this song all about for you?
Daisies was one that we like took a bit of time to get the lyric over, but it's essentially like the feeling of looking for your person, and that process of like trial and error.
And often there are quite a few errors along the way.
Yeah. But like done in a very like upbeat, almost light-hearted way. And again, because I'd been writing like like Cry at the Moon and Picasso are a bit more heavy in the lyrical content, I think it was nice to write something that was just a bit more like the like concept, or like the main takeaway from the song is like, I'll be here if you need me, sort of thing, but in like a very light-hearted way and upbeat. And I hadn't written anything like that for the album, and it was interesting because that was a song again that like was never in the conversation. Like everyone around us was like, oh, Daisies is cool anyway. And then like the shows happened, and that was actually the one.
We need to get this out. Yeah,
like, there was a genuine conversation at the end of the week where we were like, should we be thinking more about Daisies? Like it wasn't ever going to be a single until. How
fun's that though? The road testing thing, like it's like let the fans tell you what they want next. That's
they
great.
Did, yeah.
I noticed on Picasso actually that you've got a production credit.
I've co-produced like 60% of this album, and it's fun. It's just like a different side of your brain, and I'd encourage any like young songwriter or musician to get into it, because I think the process of having an idea in your head and how you want it to sound and being able to make it, and like there's one thing being able to like play the part, but then being able to like build the tone or build the like the full idea out to what you hear in your head is like it's a good process, and it makes you understand, I don't know, like how important production is in terms of if you have a certain emotion that you want to convey in a song, production can either elevate or like detract from that. So it's about making decisions within the production that emphasise the song, and there's like so much to it that I didn't realise. Like there's a real emotional side to it. So it was really fun. Like I really enjoyed it, and Boots was great for that again. And he was really good at, like I've brought production, I've been producing for a while, but we were in with such good people for so long. And like I was like 20, 21, just kind of like learning. I'd come in with my laptop that's like, oh, I've made a song, and like I wouldn't have the confidence to be like, I've done this production, because these guys have had huge hits, huge productions, so I'd kind of like keep it to myself and then just work on it on the road. But Boots was very, very, he was like, let's have a look, like let's dig into your session. And like a lot of the sessions, like Daisies, like that's like 90% my session
that's cool.
From home. And they're like, and then we just layered. We like built up all the drums and tracked live drums, because I'd just done programmed drums. But Boots was like, it's just like, it's great, and it was nice to have. That was another reason why it was great working with him, because he was a real instiller of confidence in my production as well.
That's really nice. I suppose sometimes you see these producers in these big studios, and you're like, oh, I've made this on my laptop.
Yeah.
Is it as good as that? But it is.
Yeah,
it's all about the sound and the feeling, the intuition, isn't it? I suppose.
100%. Yeah, and you hear these like artists will make, I can't remember who it was, but they made like a full album on their phone essentially, that will annoy me, but like it's all just about how it makes the person feel.
Yeah.
Like even if it's distorted, or like there's a lot of out of like big songs in the past however many years that like clinically aren't right, like they're over distorted or whatever, but it's like, yeah, but it's made a big group of people feel a certain way, so it's like you can't ever be like that's wrong or you've done it in a different way. It's just if you're managing to convey the emotion through it, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's delve into some more of the tracks. So Picasso's got more of a kind of soulful feel to it, and I love Judas. So good.
Oh, cool.
Like proper like raw, stripped back.
Yeah.
You definitely show what you can do as an artist, I think, on the album. Were you intentionally doing that, kind of showing all the different sounds that are going to make up your music going forwards?
I think so. I think it was a chance to dive in, because I listened to a lot of different music growing up, so it was a chance to like dive into stuff that I hadn't. And then it was trying to not overthink stuff too much and just being like, Daisies feels like a nice little indie rock tune. Judas feels a bit more like it should go. Like Faith, George Michael was like a really big influence, and Judas.
Oh yeah, I can hear that. Yeah,
in like the keys parts, and Judas was like another one that like I wrote that with Ray, and I produced that as well, and it was like a really nice moment to drill into it, like production, because I just hadn't had the chance to do that on that style of song before. So yeah, I'm just trying to like explore stuff that I enjoy, and it suited the song really.
A standout track is Carpet Burn. This song is absolutely huge. Like the chorus on it, it's just a great love song. Thanks, well, that's what I read into it. Is this where you tell me it's like it's a heartbreak, it's a depressing number?
Song. Yeah. No, it's not. It is exactly that. It's like about falling in love, which I think is like sometimes hard to write about because you feel a bit like, but it's about doing it in a way that, where I felt I was like, okay, this is the right way to do it. And yeah, again, it was like a real moment, and I was just channeling that. But yeah, that was like the first song that I wrote when I got to New York, and yeah, but I think that's my favourite on the album.
Yeah, that's the sing-along moment, isn't it, in the show?
That was the one that the fans like latched onto. Yeah. Again, it's like reassuring, but I think it's written from a perspective of like falling in love, and the lyric of the chorus is like, I'll take every moment I get, but it gets me down that I didn't know you before we met. Of like wanting to have more time, like wishing you meet someone at a certain point in your life and you're like, I'm having the best time with you now. I feel like we could have had such a great time had we met earlier. But I'm a big believer in like you got to meet at the right time and blah blah blah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I also think it's applicable to like so many things, friendships, family members, whatever. So hopefully it's one of those songs that can like live beyond what it was written about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely be one that people lose their voices to, I feel.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Built it out. Yeah, this festival season for sure.
I lost mine to it, so I was like, I hope so.
And we've got to talk about the guitar that you're playing on this song, because it's actual Sir Paul McCartney's old telecaster.
Yeah, wild. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Insane. So we were in Flux, and Joey, we've got to shout out Joey. Joey engineered the whole album. And like the first day that we walked into Flux, Joey's an engineer there, and he's just like this guy from Queens who's like a legend. And he ended up like, we just got on like a house on fire, and I was like, you've got to engineer the whole album. So he did. And then we were up one night, and it get Carpet Burn. Like we were struggling to get the guitar tone for ages, and it was like 4 o'clock. I'm like, and then he was like, David has got it's a first edition Telecaster, so not only is it like the one, so it's nerdy, but it's like not only is it the one that he played on Paul McCartney's solo stuff, but it was like the first run of Telecasters that were ever made. I think it's like 1949 or 51. And Joe was like, let me go and ask David. And we went through like
please.
Please, can we use the guitar? And he was like, yeah, fine. And then honestly, it was like holding a newborn baby, trying to get it back to the studio. Because like, if we drop this or scuff this,
oh my god, can you imagine?
Yeah, we're done. So we got in, plugged it all in. We tried like 2 or 3 different guitars before that, and we played that. And I don't know whether it's because we were like, we've got to make this work because it's such a
the
cool,
pressure's on, right?
But it just ended up being the guitar that, like, it was the perfect take. So
that's so
yeah,
cool.
it's cool. It's cool.
Macca, the goat.
Oh, Macca, yeah.
Have you met any of your like musical heroes over the years?
I met Dave Grohl a good few years ago, probably like 6-7 years ago. And like I love Dave Grohl. I love Foo Fighters and Nirvana, and kind of grew up. Me and my sister in particular grew up massive Dave Grohl fans, and we did the band did a gig in Victor's Games, and they were headlining, and we were probably like 5 or 6 on before them. And I was like, I'm excited for the gig, don't get me wrong, but like get the gig done so I could sit and watch Foo Fighters and buzzing. And my parents and my sister came, and we watched them from the crowd, and me and my sister got very drunk and had a great time. And then she left her backpack backstage. So she was like, I need to get my backpack. I was like, right, we'll head back. We walked into backstage, and it was just like a party going on, a huge party. And we were like, let's go.
Yeah, let's get involved.
Started chatting to this girl, and she was like, I'm a songwriter and I work with Dave, and he's brought us on tour. Would you like to meet him? And we were like, 100%, that'd be so
As if
cool.
you were going to say no.
Yeah,
like,
like,
nah, I'm good, thanks.
Busy, and genuinely, he gets the title as like the nicest man in rock, and he like genuinely is. He was lovely. Like, he knew about the band. He was like, oh, if someone mentioned you in the meet and greet today, like,
That's
so
nice.
lovely. Like, so just come off stage, and it's like really nice that, you know, when you meet someone that you've like,
and they're actually
and
nice
they're
as
lovely
well.
as well. Yeah. So that was a good moment. And then also that at the same time, my parents were ringing both of us, and they were like, "Where are you?" We were like, "With Dave Grohl, shut up."
Leave me alone.
Yeah, with Dave. But yeah, it was amazing. I think that's like a testament to just like, no matter where you where you get, it's like being a nice person.
Yeah. I remember meeting him at a Brits after party and just got like chatting to him at the bar, and he's just so lovely.
Yeah.
Because I was almost a bit like, it's Dave Grohl, I've got to say something, but I'm just like, I love you
That
so
is
much,
so cool.
pretty much.
What
But
were you chatting
He was
about?
just so nice. We just got like chatting about music, and then it's like, then he walked off, and he ended up going off to like chat to Little Mix. I was thinking, didn't expect this to be a friendship,
it's a
but like,
crossover.
sure.
Sick.
He's just
Love
great,
that.
isn't he? Who would you say are your like proper musical heroes, Dave Grohl aside?
I'm a massive Arctic Monkeys fan. And I think like the way, just in all of them, was like how they've managed to have like these different iterations to their career and change their sound, but make it feel like so authentic every step of the way. And I'd love to speak to, like, I think Alex's songwriting and lyrics are just like incredible. So Arctic Monkeys would be really cool. Seeing Paolo was always a big one. Yeah, I'd say that those are like my main 3 growing up. And then there's like a load of different, like, Mum used to play a lot of Stevie Wonder around the house, and loved Stevie Wonder. And then there was like a soul singer called Angie Stone, who we grew up on, and like just who become part of your childhood. So it's like meeting them, it's like, oh, you were like a soundtrack to a big part of my life. So that's cool.
Have you heard the rumour that Arctic Monkeys are done?
Nah, really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Apparently, after
Don't
like,
break my heart.
I know the recent live dates. Apparently, like there's rumours that's it, and like honestly,
Seriously?
I'm gutted
me
if
too.
true.
Oh no. Yeah, I'd be devastated. But then I saw they were doing, I can't remember what they were speaking about, but it was like the thing of everyone wanted like AM, the Mark II.
Yeah.
And then I was like, do you though? Because AM's so good, you want it
So
to just
good.
like stand alone. But yeah, I'd hate to see them disband. Like they're the best.
Yeah, they really are. They've got to go forever. That's the rules. Another track I wanted to chat to you about, because I think it's really special, is Holy Grail. Do you have a favourite from this body of work? And if so, what is it?
Maybe Carpet Burn. I think
Yeah.
Carpet Burn is probably my favourite one. But Holy Grail, Holy Grail was like, it was the first, actually no, second time. So Ina Roldson, who like, incredible songwriter and artist, like, and I was a massive fan of hers. And she had a free day in London, and we just got to the studio one day, and she's just the best. She's just amazing. Like, I walked in, and she was in like a double denim, pink, like Texas tuxedo. She was like, "I'm going to see Barbie tonight." I was like, "You look amazing." And we just got on really well, and I'd had like Cry at the Moon and Carpet Burn at that point, and she was like, I listened to songs, but I love your song titles. Whatever we do, we need to get a cool song title today. Like, even if the song's bad, the title's got to be good. And we wrote Picasso that day. And again, it was like I felt very lucky to have people like Boots and Ina come in and like believe in the album in the way that they did. Because after we wrote Picasso, Ina was just like, let's go in a bit more. And we did, and we got a couple of more days, just me and her. And we went in and wrote Holy Grail, and she's just unbelievable. Like one of the best songwriters that I've ever written with. Like her ability to just, it's like poetry, her lyrics are, and she just comes out with them so naturally. But then she's also got like the best knowledge of music of anyone that I've ever met. So she'll play like, I'll be listing influences or like playing songs on the album, and she'd be like, oh, this could be cool if you tried this, and then just gave me like a huge playlist. And then it also got to the point like later down the line, there was a couple more songs that I'd written, and she became a sounding board for like lyrics and melody, and I'd send her across just like an acoustic like voice note of a song and be like, how do you think this is? I remember there was the title track of the album, I had 2 versions of it, like 2 takes on the lyric, and I was like, A or B? She was like, B. And then that was it. I was like, I trust Ina, so
that's cool. I was going to ask you actually, like, who is your sounding board? Obviously, you're used to in the band having your best mates there to kind of give you feedback, and it's quite a collaborative thing. But in this solo era, who is it that you're reaching out to for advice? Ina, but anyone else that you're running the music past?
I played it to the boys. I did play a lot of the music to the boys
nice.
Throughout the process. So I played them Cry at the Moon like pretty soon after it was done.
What did they say? It's all right.
They were like, they gassed me up, and I was like, oh, my boys.
Oh, that's good. It goes either way with mates, isn't it? You've got that's amazing. Yeah. Yes, you go get them on. Like, yeah, fine.
Keep writing. No, we're all super supportive of, like, I've heard James's music before it comes out, and same with Con, and I think we all trust each other's opinions so much, so I tend to send music to them just to be like, this is where I'm at. Then Ina and Boots became like the sounding board, and I think that's really important. It was important for me because I'd never written by myself or done this before, so I was like, I don't want to make a huge team, but I want a team of people that I really trust, and I can bounce off, be it like in the studio or like 12 at night once I finish something, be like, what do you think of this? And they feel
sounds some mad late night voice note. Is this any good?
It felt really bad, but then Ina would come straight back, and so those 2 were my sounding board throughout this, I'd say.
And we should talk about the visuals as well. I feel like they're really strong. Was it like as you were making the music, you could see the whole kind of creative? It feels very, very New York. You've lent into that kind of like gritty industrial feel. Is that just because you really connected with NYC as a place?
Yeah, I think so. I think that had like a massive impact on it because we spent such a long time there, and I think it kind of suited the music. And for a long time, I think I speak to other artists and they're so visually led as well as being like song led, and they're like world builders in terms of the visuals and like live and music videos, and that was like something that I hadn't thought about until probably the 5th album that we did in the band. And then you realise it's like a really fun part of the process as well, as like seeing how, again, like production elevates a song's meaning, like the visual then I think takes it to another step. So you've got to, rather than just like slapping something together, it's like, how do we take the song and put it in this visual setting that amplifies the message of it or certain parts. So I got to work with a director called Wiz on Cry at the Moon. Yes,
who has done some like videos for like all the indie greats. So it's like Arctic Monkeys and Queens of the Stone Age.
He did do a Queens of the Stone Age one,
Oasis, I think, as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's had some mad stories. But
do share.
I'm gonna
some are probably not suitable for sharing. Yeah,
but he was great, and like he kind of got exactly what I wanted to do, and came with a load of ideas. So it's been fun.
I am so excited for this album and everything else that is to come in your solo era. But we've got to look back on your time with the Vamps, of course. What are the top just like unforgettable moments that pop into your head?
I remember Connor broke his knee on stage. That was like unforgettable. Oh,
that's a nasty one, isn't it?
Yeah, we were in like Hong Kong, and I think he jumped or he turned, and he just dropped his knee, just like popped out of place. But more positive, unforgettable nights.
Hopefully, a few more positive memories.
Yeah, actually. I think the first time that we headlined the O2 Arena was like, that was mad. First time like doing big shows in Birmingham was crazy as well, because it was like I'd grown up. Yeah, going to those venues. So like, even the first time we played O2 Academy, I remember being like, I've seen so many bands here. It's like a venue that I was in that crowd like 3-4 years ago. So that was cool. And then like the release of the first album was, it was crazy, especially because we worked on it since we were like 16.
Because it has been quite a whirlwind for the last, 12 years, band starting, 10 years since the debut album. Do you ever actually sort of sit and take stock?
I don't think we did for a long time. I actually think like COVID forced us, because like we would have just carried on touring.
Yeah.
And we had stuff planned, and then we just, obviously everything ground to a halt. And I think that was the first time that like any of us really sat and were like, we've never had this long to sit before. Like I think the longest that we ever would have off is like a month over Christmas. And then you're catching up with mates and family, and then before you know it, you're back out.
Straight back to it.
So it was tough, but it was a nice moment. Like I think everyone in a way did that during COVID, because it slowed everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And you thought about like how you're living your life and how you want to move forward. And then we did the fifth album, and we actually just released re-recordings of a lot of the first album. And that was like a moment for all of us to be like, you listen to the songs in a different way, because those were songs that you use. And we were like, I was 17 when we were releasing the first album, and like Can We Dance, our first single, and you're singing it as like in a way that is like you're trying to get your name out there as a band, and you're trying to like, you're using it as like a tool to try and grab people in. And so that's what it is in that moment for you. And then skip forward a couple of years, and it becomes like, it's the crowd song, and it's like it becomes that moment. And then when we were re-recording it, it becomes a song that takes you back to those early years. And it's just like, it's funny how the song's changed over time, and it's become almost like a bookmark of like checking in at different points in your life. So it's nice, and they're also chapters that you feel like you've closed, but it's nice to like dip back in and revisit and be like, oh, that was quite fun.
Yeah, nice to get nostalgic.
Yeah, it was nice. It was tears in the studio. We were all getting emotional about it.
Because I was reading, you guys are the only act to headline the O2 Arena 5 years in a row.
Yeah, that's mad.
That's sick, isn't it? Like, not only the scale that you got to, but the consistency to do it at the top level for that long. Yeah,
it was mad. Blew our minds. I think they were like, after that, right, chill out for a couple of years.
Yeah, do you know what?
Go somewhere else, please. It was wild. I remember like when we announced that, our agents were like, just so you know. But we just kind of like, we were in a bubble as the band, like 9 times out of 10. And we genuinely are best mates. And I think that's what makes the whole process so much easier. Because you're essentially messing around with your best mates. And so as amazing as that is, like, it is amazing. All we want to do is be able to play music and like connect with the fans, and that is obviously that. But you kind of just, you wait for the next opportunity to do it again, because it's so much fun and you get to do your kind of like passion for a living.
And that's why you're doing another tour late this year.
Yeah.
You didn't want to keep anyone waiting.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to it?
I am. I'm really excited. And we haven't played together in like a year and a half, and I love it. Like it's just nice to get back into a room. We're doing the first album in full, which is like gonna have to lower so many of the keys, because I cannot hit those notes anymore.
I guess some of them genuinely.
God, no, yeah. It'll be a lot of like, no, you guys.
Yeah. And if you could take over.
But yeah, I'm buzzing. It'll be really, really nice.
Who have been your favourite people that you've played with then, or collaborated with?
It was really so Tom, who's Matoma, who we did All Night with, and that was our first ever like DJ collab. And so we were all a bit like, we'd never done it before, we didn't know how it was going to go, and it went well, and we got on so well with Tom, and we ended up like just becoming really good mates with him. And he's just a legend. Like, we went on so many nights out. His brother's a legend as well. He's like this huge Norwegian man. And yeah, we'd go over, like we went and did a gig. He's got a charity in Norway, and he invited us over, and we were like, yeah, of course, no heartbeat, we'll come and play a couple of songs. So it's nice when you have those like really lasting friendships with people, and it kind of goes beyond just the song that you've done together. You're like, oh no, you're a really good dude, and we get on well.
That's what I always think with you and the boys, like the bond you have must be so strong, because you've grown up together, which means you've gone through a lot of highs together, but also, some lows as well. I remember like James speaking out about his like body dysmorphia and how you guys were so supportive, and you guys are always really open about your mental health and stuff. Like, you guys have really been through it together. So brothers, right? I guess.
Yeah, it's family. Yeah, it genuinely is. I think it's such a strange relationship to try and describe, because it's just, I don't think it's like anything in any of our lives, because you, like you say, you go through those things together and they're so bonding, and the highs are incredibly bonding because there's just the four of you, and we'll come off after gigs and sometimes it's just like the best feeling, and only the other three boys have gone through that. But then it's the same. I did after the New York show. Like I say, I was with him today, and we always go back to this one story where we were touring America and we were doing like a radio tour at the same time. So we'd have a gig on the evening and then like 2 radio stations through the day that we'd have to go and play the song at. And then we were just like shells by the end of the tour. But there was one gig that we put down to as like worst thing we've ever done. Not even on their end. We were just like, we basically got pulled into this. It was a chicken wing restaurant, like a family eatery restaurant,
right.
/ karaoke bar, which to be fair sounds
what
a great night as well. But they brought us in to play at the karaoke bar at like 7. No one in there knew us, and also no one knew that there was going to be a band coming out. So there's like a couple of fans, but then the majority of it were like these families in the middle of America who were like, "We're trying to eat our wings. Can you shut up?" Like, we're
actually keep it down?
Yeah, and we came off and we were like, "Oh man, this is rough." And we always speak about that story. I met the guy who booked us for that in New York the other week, and I was like, he was like, "Hey man, I just wanted to say sorry." I was like, "Oh, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, it's the guy who booked you for the chicken wing gig." And we were like, and then I told the boys that, and they were like, "That's unreal."
You got to have some of those shows though, right? Some of the bad ones that actually in a way makes you better artists. But at the time, awful, I can imagine. Yeah. You're like, actually, is this fine?
Yeah, what are we doing? It's just got back in the van, it was just silent. But again, like we've had so many moments together that are just like highs, lows, and you can only relate between the band. It's like a really special thing.
And what do you guys get up to backstage? I guess like 4 mates, best mates hanging out backstage. I can imagine there's like all sorts of silliness that goes on.
There was a lot of like, for a while we were doing like real life Fruit Ninja, which was in hindsight a terrible decision. And like you'd just be like chucking like oranges and it'd be like, that slips out of your hand, I am gone. So real life Fruit Ninja was a thing for a bit. Trying to think, Evie probably sees it more so than us. No, it's very chilled. Well, it's not very chilled, but like everyone works so differently as well within the band. Like James is up crack of dawn in the gym very early. Me, Con and Tris are not. We're like, we'll at midday roll out of bed, like right before sound check. Maybe me and Con will do something. Tris will probably go back to bed on the bus after sound check. So it's like all living very different lives until like an hour before the show. and then it's just like, I don't know, put the music on. We've got the same pre-show playlist that we've had for like years.
Oh, really amazing.
So we'll always put that on, and then you're in.
You have achieved so much as a band and individually now. What are the like last kind of big things left on your bucket list? Do you have a bucket list? Do you have a vision board? Are you that guy?
Less so. Like I used to be very not against it, but I was like manifesting stuff used to be like I never used to do that. But then I think there is some real weight to it. Do you know what I mean? In putting what you want out into the universe. Like I think there's something in that. And so, but we never hugely, massively did it in the band. I think we like worked really hard at our live show, and we were like, look, if we can be as good as a live band as we can be, that's like, we can do that time after time and try and make the gigs go bigger and always try and get into bigger venues. I think there's always like certain venues, like we never played like, especially being in New York a bit more last year, I was like, there's a couple of like New York venues that we never played that I would love to like build towards playing to. And with the boys, like we never did like Madison Square Garden. Even as like supporting someone, it would just be one of those bucket list venues that you'd love to step into and play. So I think there's still a couple of venues that we want to play, but it's more like the length of time that we keep it going, I think. Is the big thing that we speak about of like wanting to do this literally until we can't.
Yeah, like the Vamps reunion tour when you're like in your 90s.
Yeah,
like, come on, boys,
Oh,
one more time.
Zimmer frame out on the front of the stage. That is the plan.
Long may it continue. Brad, it's been class having you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
What a legend. No idea how he can pull off that tash, but he does. Amazing to hear some of Brad's memories with the Vamps, and I cannot wait for that debut album of his to drop into the world. This has been a Good Karma production, recorded at Metropolis Studios. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, please do rate, review and subscribe so we can get the Eras podcast out there to more and more people. Let's take over the world. Come on, let's go.